Hi, Cody.
Hi,
How you doing?
doing well. How are you, Matt?
Good. I'm all right, thank you. I'm well. I'm well. Thanks for taking the time for a quick chat today. Um, so yeah, I suppose first of all, do you want to explain your background for everyone and your business so we've got a bit of a feel for that?
Yeah, of course. So thanks for having me, Matt. Been looking forward to our
That's okay.
conversation. Yeah. And yeah,
No
so
worries.
I'm based in Oregon in the US. My background is in operations management, people management, and leadership. I found my way into the Salesforce ecosystem a few years ago through that vein. I would say probably a non-traditional path, but I think I've come to learn that there isn't necessarily a traditional pathway into Salesforce, which is kind of cool. It's something I think that's exciting about Salesforce. It's unique.
Yeah.
But currently, I'm a people operations manager for Platinum Cubed. Platinum Cubed is a Salesforce partner based in New York. We focus on implementation and integrations for Salesforce. So we really optimize Salesforce CRMs for predominantly financial services companies, commercial real estate,
Yeah.
banks, private equity. And we branch out of that a little bit. But that's our bread and butter. And so what I do is I lead a team of consultants, a remote team of high performing Salesforce consultants, and try to help them get the most out of their performance and their work experience and manage work-life balance, all the things that are challenging in the consulting space. So, yeah.
Cool. Sounds interesting. So you said you come from a sort of operations management, which
Yeah.
is slightly different, I would say,
Yeah.
to a classic sort of I don't know, people that have come from maybe a very technical background or and ended up delivering or against with implementations or
Yeah.
there's various routes. But yeah, you don't often come across from an ops management side.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unique. It's very unique. And for me, I think, fortunately, I had a friend of mine a few years ago. I was looking to make a change. He was working for a Salesforce partner, and he said, "Hey, man, I think you'd be really good in this space, leading people." And that was kind of my foot in the door to get an interview, and ended up landing that job. And that was with a different Salesforce partner that I'm with now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super thankful for it. What's crazy about this is 4 years ago, I didn't even know what Salesforce was. And now
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
deep into it. It's pretty amazing.
What's what what attracted you to it in the first place? Because
Yeah.
obviously that although it grows year on year and the revenues grow year on year but it's been a massively evolving sector, hasn't it?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what attracted you in the first place and why do you still want to continue in it, I suppose?
Yeah. I think what initially attracted me to it right off the bat was the remote first kind of culture. For me, that was appealing because at the time I was working, I was director of operations for a transportation company. I was working, 70 hours a week in office, and I was just burnt out. And I had a young family. I have 4 children,
Yeah.
and I wanted to change. I needed to change. I wanted to be around my family more often. And
Yeah.
which my buddy was doing this, and so I got my foot in the door. But as I got into this industry, it just opened my mind to the and world to this whole new thing, right? It was a whole new thing to me. And I think what's so appealing to me about it is uh, anyone with any sort of background, there is a pathway into Salesforce in some manner. It can be people management, it
Yeah.
can be the IT technical side, which is obviously the predominant way people are coming in. But it's such a massive ecosystem. Salesforce is such a it's a beast of a company and a platform.
Yeah.
And so there's so many avenues. And I think that that's what I like about it is there's just unlimited opportunity, um, unlimited growth potential, not just for me, but for the people I manage and work with, right? There's no like cap, there's no ceiling. So when I'm working from the people management side and helping with career path development, it's really, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Okay, and
Yeah.
let's make a pathway to work toward it. There's no limits really. And I think that's what's exciting about it. And I still do like the remote first culture as well, but it just opened my eyes to the possibilities of Salesforce, which is exciting.
Sure. And how do you find it from a partner perspective? Because it's such a competitive world out there, isn't it? And you know, um, every I suppose every partner is slightly different in terms of what they do and how they do it. And I
Yeah.
don't know, what's your take on that?
It's a very good point, because I think the market, just the economy has changed in the last couple of years quite a bit. When I came in, everything was booming, 300% growth, everything is amazing. And then things have leaned
Yeah,
up a bit. So it's been a huge pivot that way. And it's required partners to be more strategic about hiring, strategic in their sales and the types of accounts they're pursuing. Fortunately, at Platinum Cubed, our CEO and COO, our founders, are heavily involved in the sales process, and also very well connected with Salesforce account executives and within the ecosystem, which has been a huge advantage for us.
yeah,
But it's challenging. It's definitely challenging. It's, I would say, a mindful market, especially in the financial services space the last couple of years, where
yeah,
our potential clients they're maybe not as willing to spend as they were a few years ago. They're more thoughtful about that. So we've got to be more creative. Sometimes we'll do more quick start projects to get our foot in the door, and then leverage that for managed services or future projects, things like that. So I think we've had to be adaptable and flexible to the market itself. So
yeah. I was going to say in the FS world, projects tend to be quite long term, don't they?
yeah,
So have you seen a change in that then, even in your time working?
I have. So I think what we're seeing is we'll do an implementation, that's maybe 6 months or so, and then ideally do an additional implementation that kind of builds off the back of that. But it's this sort
Yeah,
of thing, we have to, it's this sort of unspoken pressure, I guess, of performing well so we can continue, right? Continue that business with our clients. And I think that that's the way a lot of contracts are being structured, is we'll do small scale implementations, and then we'll do additional ones if we feel we want to continue spending, if we feel like we like the partnership, that kind of thing. And that's what I think I was referring to with the mindful
sure.
market, is I think the private equity companies, commercial real estate, they're just being thoughtful about how they're spending. They don't want to sign these long-term massive contracts as much as they maybe used to.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and in terms of, I know obviously your background from an operations perspective,
Mhm.
um, therefore, in terms of interviewing, hiring people, um, I find the onboarding thing particularly interesting within the Salesforce world.
Mhm.
And I suppose I'll give you my view on it, is that I think it's pretty awful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I,
yeah, it is.
I know I say that because almost all the clients and companies that we've dealt with over the last nearly, what is it now, nearly 8 years in
Mhm.
this space, is that
Yeah.
it's so haphazard.
Yep.
And I just, it amazes me how you've got big global corporations that have these onboarding systems, or it could be tiny partners,
Mhm.
and yet none of them seem to have a very slick system,
Yeah.
and the impressions I think it gives to the candidates
Yeah.
is terrible.
Yep.
So I'm interested to get your take as to whether you think I'm talking crazy, or
No.
or what you think.
No. You nailed it, Matt. Honestly, I think that that's the norm, and I think a lot of the driving force for that is that in the consulting space, uh, they want you to be billable as quickly as possible. And so I think if you end
Mm,
up, people are getting hired to be staffed directly to a project full time. And from a business side of things, from the P&L side of things, you want them to be billing immediately because you're paying their
yeah,
salary, right? So I think that that's probably the driving force for that. I am fortunate enough to work at a company that's not a massive corporation. We're much smaller. We're a startup.
yeah,
And uh, So it gives me the opportunity to implement these types of things and focus on these areas. And onboarding was one of those, and we're not immune to that type of thing. We need people to be billing right away as well. So my mission over the last couple of years has been this evolving process of how do we balance that? Like, how do we onboard people, but also get them staffed quickly? We can't have them on a bench for a month or 2 months, like having this beautiful onboarding period. But we also don't want them to start billing their first day or their second day, right? And just like be thrown in and not have any transition period. And so you're totally right. And I've hired a lot of people that have come from much larger companies and have told me your onboarding experience is the best I've ever had, or said, given really high praise. And a lot of that has been based off my past experience and the failures that I've been a part of onboarding and learning, like, hey, if I were to do that, I would do this differently. But I also, again, because we're a small company, things are agile. I can take feedback in real time from people that we're onboarding, and I can make the changes right away. There's not a bunch of red tape. There's not a bunch of processes to go through. If someone gives me good feedback on how I can improve it, I'll do it right away.
Yeah.
It's
do
challenging.
you think because my feeling is the candidates almost expect the onboarding not to be very good.
Yeah, 100%. They always do. Like everyone we're bringing in, they don't expect it to be good. And part of that too is it's working remote. It can be challenging.
Yeah.
It can be awkward to get to know your team, especially like our team is all over the US, predominantly East Coast, but still, we don't even have an office. We don't have an office where people are gathering that we can go meet. So that is a big hurdle. And so for me, a big focus is getting them integrated with the team. So whatever project we're going to staff them to, I will, before they start, I'll schedule a one-on-one meeting with everyone that's going to be on their project. So they have a chance to meet with them that first week. They have a chance to hear what their role is at Platinum Cubed and get to know them right away. And I also try to make sure that there's someone from every position in the company that they can meet with. And it really helps them get connected with the team, connected with who they're working with. And then I have a series of onboarding trainings that I lead over the first couple of weeks. We have an onboarding checklist, right, to make sure that they're getting all the, the administrative stuff taken care of. But we try to make it as thorough as we can. We also make sure they meet with one or both of our founders in that first week. And so it's a whole process, but we've been refining it. But getting them integrated with the team, to me, I think is the most important thing. It's awkward to come in and start working if you don't really know anyone, or you only know your manager and like one of your project manager, and like it's awkward. And so trying to cultivate that environment that you maybe would normally have in an office, it's difficult, but there's ways to try to do it.
Yeah. It must be challenging to kind of try and develop that culture, when like you say, everyone's working remotely, and and I suppose you also want people to be passionate about the business they're joining, and they want to feel good when they're walking in, and not walking physically in, but when they're working, that's always I find interesting compared to 20 years ago, where people were physically in an office, and it's a lot easier obviously to tell people what to do, or to direct them in a certain way. So that's why I asked the question about it, really.
No, it's a great question, and you're spot on. Honestly, Matt, it's most people are expecting a poor onboarding experience.
What about from sort of then aligning those individuals and talking about within Salesforce, within the career paths, and how do you plan that? How do you set those expectations? How do you give that person confidence that their career can build with the companies? Because I suppose people's in Salesforce particularly, people don't stay at companies very long. So how do you find that? How, sort of giving them confidence that they're in a great company, they're in a great place to be, versus as from a company perspective, thinking, right, how long are these people going to be with us? I don't know. It's just, I'm interested to know how that's directed from your side, really.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's really multifaceted. And you're right. I mean, people do bounce around a lot in the Salesforce ecosystem. And there's a bit of the grass is always greener perspective, I think, or they can make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
You're not going to 10% more here. And so I think we try to differentiate with work-life balance, and also with a lot of people are attracted to working in startups. They want to get away from the massive corporate machines where they're just a number, they're, one of many on a project or within the company. So that's an advantage for us, but we really do, we pitch work-life balance in the process of the interview process, but we really stick to it. And that's a big part of my job. I'm not a technical person, right? Like when I'm managing people that are all significantly smarter than me. They know much about Salesforce. They're implementing Salesforce. I don't do that. But what that allows me to do is it frees me up. I'm not in the weeds on like, how did you build this flow? And what do you like? I'm not analyzing their technical skills. I'm focusing on them as a human, making sure that they have what they need, right, to be successful, creating psychological safety, but then also trying to identify what are your goals. So we do like semi-annual goal setting, and all of that's tied into like the broader picture of where they want to go in their career. So I have a list of questions that I have them fill out. You focus on like their strengths and their development opportunities, but then like, what's your long-term career vision, your short-term career vision? And I want it to be specific to them. I don't want it to be me saying, this is where you're going to go. This is your path. I want to encourage them in whatever they're wanting to do. And the cool thing is we have actual examples of people working for us that have started in one area, but we've actually created a role based on a pathway that they wanted to go down, or skill sets that they had that we ended up needing. And so even if someone wants to work down a path that we don't currently have, like a role not existing, there's still opportunities for that. And we don't stifle that and say, so sorry, we don't need that role right now. It's no, let's explore that. What would that take? What would we need to do? Let's write a job description and see what we would be aiming for. And I think taking that approach of truly focusing on work-life balance. I mean, one of the things I'm doing is I'll ask my team every week. I have weekly updates. I ask them. We use the employee engagement software called Lattice. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a great tool for people management. And I'll ask them weekly in an update, what time did you spend focusing on your goals? Like what went well in the past week? So we're always having this conversation. And if the answers are often, I didn't have time because I'm too busy, then I'll drill into that. If you're too busy to work on your goals, then we need to look at dialing things back, taking things off your plate, making sure you're not billing over, 36, 40 hours. We don't want you billing 60 hours a week. We want you to work life balance. So it's not just lip service when we're saying we care about work-life balance. We genuinely care about the balance of our team so they can focus on their career path development. And I think for me personally, doing those things will help increase retention. It's going to minimize the burnout. And that's really what I'm focused on, because I think the burnout in consulting, especially in financial services consulting, is high. I mean, people are you're dealing with private equity firms in New York, right? Like they want ROI, they want results, they can be intense. And so if you're not helping them focus on like, stress relief and outlets outside of work and on their goals, they're going to burn out and they're going to go look for that other company. So I think that's the best defense you have against turnover, in my opinion.
Have you done anything in terms of like sort of taking feedback on that type of stuff from the candidate perspective? Because I think it's an interesting approach, because it's different to what I hear, on the ground, if you like, when we're recruiting for people in that space. It's different to what you hear. So I just wondered if you'd kind of taken the feedback as to maybe, people that have moved up within the company, or just general sort of customer feedback, really. Candidate feedback, sorry, not customer.
You mean taking the feedback and passing it on to potential candidates like that we're interviewing? Is that what you're saying?
Well, more people that have worked for you, and then they've talked about the onboarding experience and about the career experience, and they've fed that back to you, is what I was trying to get at. Rather than necessarily candidates you've interviewed, but actually people you've hired that have then fed that back.
Getting feedback is really important to me. And if there was a situation I had about a year ago with someone that we had hired that said, hey, I was told that I was going to get this work-life balance, and I don't feel like I'm getting that. And so for me, that goes back, and I guess touch more on that in a second, but for me, that goes back to creating an environment where they feel safe and okay to even say that to me. Like, that's a big thing. Is asking for feedback and receiving it well, and not being like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, we're giving it, like, I want to hear the feedback. I'm always asking my team for feedback. And so creating that environment first. But with that individual, I was grateful, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we're selling this and you're saying you don't feel like you're getting this. So let's tell me more, like, what's going on. And we were able to put in some guardrails and some things in place. And it was a twofold thing. I think some of it was their personality, right? Like, they were the person who wanted to work weekends, and it was like, no, you've got to stop doing that. We're not expecting you to do that. But then some of it was client expectations and stuff like that. So it's good. I'm always asking for feedback, because work-life balance doesn't happen by accident. And it's not just like this magical thing that, like, well, we have it here and it just exists. It's a constant thing that we're working with. Because we're dealing with clients and stakeholders that are demanding of our time. And so there's that element. And then you've got different personalities and ambitions and stuff like that. So getting feedback from the team is super important, and always kind of checking in with them and making sure that we're monitoring and measuring that, and that people actually feel like they're getting that work-life balance that they've been told they're going to get. Because even when I do talk to candidates, they can be a bit cynical about that. They can be, well, everybody says that. It says work-life balance, and what even is that? And so I think it's important to sort of follow through on that and show that it's a priority, for sure. And getting feedback is an important piece of it.
Cool. And how have you found the whole recruitment within the Salesforce space in general, maybe from a Platinum Cube perspective? What have you seen? What is just interesting, because I don't often, obviously, I like our clients to be happy, but I like to. It's interesting to hear what your general experience is of that.
Yeah. Well, because we're remote first, we do get a lot of applicants. The challenge is it's really hard to actually find the right fit. So we can get hundreds and hundreds of applicants for one position that we're filling, but it still can be really difficult to get that right person. So we get a lot of people applying that aren't really qualified or not really what we're looking for. And that can be the challenge, just having to go through so many candidates, so many interviews, so many resumes. But we're also looking for something pretty specific. I think when I first got into the financial services, because my previous consulting company was also in the similar space, financial services, Salesforce, it was different. I mean, the makeup of our teams were different. We had a lot of people who weren't client facing, that were billable, but not client facing. We had a lot of people that were just kind of behind the scenes developers, configuration specialists. And when the economy changed a few years ago, that changed. And a lot of those people got cut. And so, I mean, for us and other leaders I've talked to in the FinServ space, every consultant that's billable that we're hiring needs to be dynamic. They need to be able to lead and facilitate meetings. They need to be able to talk to clients. So like when I first started in the space, we had a lot of people who were like, well, they're not client facing. Like, they're just a developer. They're just, and that doesn't exist. It's not as prevalent as it used to be in our space, at least. Everyone we're interviewing as a consultant needs to have that ability to lead or facilitate and talk with the client. And that is a difficult component, because a lot of people get into Salesforce because they like the technical side of it. They naturally want to learn more about that. It's easier for them. But to find someone who does know Salesforce and can build and configure in Salesforce and also has great interpersonal skills is the real challenge.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of Salesforce itself, obviously Salesforce has gone through even though the revenues for the company have grown, the sector itself has been quite volatile for the last 18 months. So how do you feel Salesforce in financial services looks right now, and looks for the maybe the next 18 months? Where do you see that?
Oof, man, that's a good question. And I don't know if I have a great answer to that. I think what we'll see is more of the larger partners kind of going down market into smaller products that they maybe wouldn't have normally. And then I think you'll see partners branching outside of financial services. We've already started to do that. Financial services is still our bread and butter, but we've started to do projects, smaller projects that are outside of financial services to kind of diversify a little bit, which is smart. And I think we also have leveraged managed services pretty extensively to kind of have that baseline revenue. And so I think the big, massive multi-million-dollar projects are sexy. Like that's what the partners want to do. But I think it can be real boom and bust. And then, there's been big layoffs recently with Salesforce partners. I don't know if I should talk specifically about specific companies.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, I think layoffs within the sector is common.
Okay.
That's common news, isn't it?
Okay. Well, I know Boeing. I think Boeing cut some Salesforce products that they were doing and made some cuts there. And so we've even had some applicants that have applied that were affected by that. They weren't Boeing employees, but they were working on those projects. And so I think those kinds of things that they can be boom and bust, they're not guaranteed. And so it's good to have kind of hedge your bets a bit and be a little bit more diversified. And then I think that one of the things that was appealing to me about Platinum Cubed is that we are pretty strong in managed services. So it gives us a steady baseline revenue. Because the projects can be a big shot in the arm revenue wise, but then it's there and then it's gone and it's there and it's gone. And managed services is consistent. The next 12 months I've got this revenue coming in.
Yeah.
So it provides kind of a safety net that way.
Cool. And have you seen much? Obviously, AI and Agentforce. I was at Dreamforce in September, so I heard all about Agentforce and what it was going to do. And interestingly, even this week we've had a couple of clients that are now have asked us for Salesforce technical architects that have an AI specialist certification, which is the first time I've seen that come through.
Yes.
Normally, it's just you want a certified TA or you want a designer, architect, or whatever. But now first time you've seen the AI specialisms coming in. So I thought that was very interesting. So what's your take been on all of that? I know that's quite a big subject, but
it is. AI is massive. It's crazy to think even in the past year how much it's exploded, and it's so prevalent now. And we've tried to be proactive about that. We don't have any specific AI products coming, but we've got a couple of our consultants that have the AI associate and are working towards the AI specialist. And we have a couple kind of researching different apps on the App Exchange that that we could leverage for AI for our clients, because we're expecting that. We're expecting that what you just described, we're expecting that to begin happening. And whenever Salesforce is pushing something at Dreamforce, you usually see it trickle down, eventually.
You do.
That's what happens. Whether it's MuleSoft or Marketing Cloud or whatever it is over the years, like there's always something, and you end up seeing more of those projects at some point. So we're trying to anticipate that and make sure our team is focusing on learning it, because I think no matter your stance on AI, it's here. So I think trying to figure out how to leverage it to for clients, and then also I think for how we can even make our teams more efficient is really interesting to me. So we're trying to get ahead of that, or not get behind.
And hey,
I said, or not get behind.
No, that's all right. Did you? Did you go to Dreamforce?
I did not. No, I did not.
No, okay. But you obviously the Agentforce thing you heard about, and Have you got any summary on that for the viewers out there?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about it. I don't know enough about it, but I'm familiar with it. I know my team is interested in learning about it. But I mean, it's essentially it's beyond just the Einstein, right? It's more dynamic.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's just all it's completely about the personal touch and the personal person providing the service, and rather than just standard companies reaching out, it's completely personal. So people feel that experience, and that's that's what I heard about for 4 days.
You were a doctor.
Which is good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Was there anything else you kind of wanted just to talk about in terms of the ecosystem, AI, Agent Force, anything like that? It's been interesting to hear, I think, particularly from your operational onboarding and coaching and development and careers, and because that's an angle that doesn't often get talked about.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you being open to talking about it. No, I think for me, I do a lot of interviews with people, and I think if anyone listening to this is seeking employment in Salesforce, one thing I would just encourage is focus on your interpersonal skills, focus on your ability to connect with people and facilitate meetings, because everyone likes the tech side of it. I mean, it's universal. That's like why they're in this space. They're excited about the technical aspects. They want to get certifications. That's really common. And at some point, certifications can look great on a resume and they're important. They can help you get an interview. But then to go to that next level, it's important that you have those interpersonal skills. So that's just one thing I would really encourage, because I see a lot of people where their resumes look amazing. They've got 17 certifications, but then you talk to them and you're like, I don't think I'd want to put this person in front of a client. So, you know what I mean? So I think that's important to focus on that element. Yeah.
Cool. Wonderful. Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks very much, Cody. I really appreciate your conversation today and some of your interesting points about a topic that doesn't get talked about enough. And actually, my view is that I don't think the industry is good enough at that side of it. And maybe because it's still learning all of that stuff, and like you say, it focuses on billing and it focuses on, so maybe that's probably why. But hopefully someone listening out there is thinking about their own business, because I think there could be value added there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Well, I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Cody. Thank you. Bye.